There's something special about this place, and people have felt that way for thousands of years, and maybe since the beginning of time.
I don't know, I can't tell you, it's a feeling I can't even explain, but it's just kind of like an emotional feeling that I have about it.
So Abenaki is the Dawn Land, and the Abenaki people refer to themselves as the Dawn Landers, the Abenaki. I'd like to invite you to join us for convergence of time and space in a special place.
We'd also like to thank the Marina Restaurant for being open to this special event. Another set of activities connected with the Words Project are these monthly roundtables. This is an unusual place for a roundtable, but we thought we'd give it a shot. Hour-long conversations about an element of our area's story. This month we are focusing on the stories of the Abenaki in this place. Chief Roger Longtoe Sheehan is the Sagamo of the Elnu Abenaki tribe and a talented Abenaki artist, native musician, and educator. Chief, could you kick us off, please?
Chief is here.
Welcome to the homeland of the Abenaki. Welcome.
Thank you, Chief. The Elnu Abenaki are in the southeastern part of Vermont and continue today. I'd like to pass it on now to Annette Spaulding. That was going to be a big introduction there. You can do it.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming. This is a really special place and this is a really special event and this is so cool to see everyone sitting around in their kayaks and this beautiful place that I've learned so much more about. About 30 years ago, I was asked to work at a Fort Dummer underwater archaeology project, and when I was asked to do that, I started doing research on Fort Dummer. And then sitting in the middle of the Fort Dummer file was a petroglyph, a beautiful picture, a hand-drawn, excuse me, I think I'm about to do loud, but a hand-drawn picture that was done by a 10-year-old boy. And that picture was a picture called Indian Rock. It was on a 12 by 8 foot ledge. At the time we didn't know if it was a ledge or a rock. I got really interested in it, and off and on, for 30 years, I've been looking for that. All the way from down past that bridge, and all the way up here. And underwater, you think that's not that far and that's not that much, but it was very far. And in the last 5 years, I've decided to concentrate totally on looking for this. I've dove all over the world. I've been so many places, but this place right here is one of the most unbelievable spiritual feeling of when you're underwater. I cannot explain. Every time I'm searching, and I've been searching heavy duty, about 120 average dives a year, hundreds of hours underwater. Every time I'm here, there are eagles, at least one, sometimes 3. Usually sitting on one of those dead trees over there. Just when I come up from the bottom, I thought, they thought I was some kind of a big fish. And it was going to take 3 of them to come down and get me out of the water because my bowls and everything in the water. I thought they were, fascinated by that. But I was here diving under there alone. Well, not really. I have a big 7-pound bass. His name is George. And he's been hanging around with me for about 5 years. People come up and they say, hey, do you see any fish right here? I would say, nope. Anyway, I know there was attached to George. But anyway, in the incredible difficulty of searching, as we know, what happened in 1909, these petroglyphs, there's 2 sites known. One is a 12 by 8 foot wall with 9 petroglyphs on it, and one is a round face, very similar to the ones in Bellows Falls.
It fell out.
Anyway, what ended up happening was that I should say, was looking for all these years, and 3 years into the search without finding one single thing man-made, I started wondering, my friends were making fun of me and saying, Annette, I don't want to dive with you there, I'm sorry, but I don't want to keep digging in mud and sand. That's boring, you're never going to find it. And I said, no, I am going to find it. I am. So I spent all this time looking, and the strange thing about it was when you're up high on the ledge and you're coming down, the silt is only about 1 inch deep. You're taking off the face of those beautiful, beautiful rocks and ledge. It's amazing, the rock here. I've learned so much since I've been doing this. The terraces here, the history here. This is amazing here. Anyway, you start down, and you're getting the silt, but as you get deeper, unfortunately over the years, hurricanes and Hurricane Irene and the flow of the dam, there's at least 3.5 to 4.5 feet of sand and silt right up here. At one time, it was a gravelly riverbed. However, in 1909, no one knew. They said that the water was going to go up 5 feet from the power plant. It went up 15 feet. 15 feet. So many people, hundreds and hundreds of farmers lost their land. And they lost their land, they lost their buildings. But the very symbolic petroglyphs went underwater unnaturally, and they've been under there since 1909. I was really worried when they built that tower in back of me in the Brattleboro Retreat to try to keep the water out. When you're kayaking out there, where it's like 8 inches, a couple feet deep, that was not underwater. That was actually an amazing runway for an airplane, and also a park. Now you can kayak there and look at the birds, but that wasn't how it was. I got really nervous when I was searching and not finding anything for 3 years that they built that pump house on the petroglyph site. Because they drilled there and they blasted there, and I really got really worried. However, the good news is 3 years ago, diving, I found a man-made NLT in the rock, only 9 feet deep, and I knew if that survived with all that current over the years, that those petroglyphs survived. And I didn't give up. As many times as everyone said, give up, stop. Well, then one night, I'm almost out of air, right here, sun going down, this beautiful spot here at the marina. Sun's going down, I'm almost out of air, don't have any battery hardly in my camera. As the sun was going down, in my last flight, I found a single face, just like the ones in Bellows Falls, looking right at me. And the sun was shining right on it. And I looked at it and I said, "You're not what I'm looking for, but I'm happy to see you." And I came up from the bottom, and 2 eagles were sitting in the tree. And I thought, oh my God, okay, I'm going to keep going. It took me a couple more years, but one day, same thing, almost out of air, almost dark. I found the inscription of I found the inscription of the first eagle under 2.5 feet of silt. And when you're a child, the difficulties to find this, when you're a child and you go to the ocean and you build this great big castle and it's wet with sand and you're so excited and a big wave comes and takes it away. That's what I've been dealing with out here. I can't hold that sand back. I spent 4.5 hours, 3 tanks of air, pull it all aside, and then what happens? They open the dam, the current comes, and it's gone. Filled in. So I've never been able to uncover the entire thing at once. I've never been able to uncover the entire wall at one time. However, I will have to say, I am so thankful to see it in my eyes, and there's so much more to the story. Rich and Jessica will fill you in with the history here. I want to thank you so much. This is the first time that we have ever done this on the water from this, and there's a lot of technical things, and I'm sorry if you can't hear everything, but I want to thank you again, and I'm going to pass the mic on to Joe for the next introduction, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Jessica Dolan is an environmental anthropologist and ethnobotanist who researches and writes about human relationships with the natural world. She has worked with indigenous communities in Canada and the United States for the last 10 years on projects that contribute to environmental restoration, education, traditional knowledge revitalization, land conservation, and indigenous sovereignty. So please welcome Dr. Jessica Dolan.
I'd like to acknowledge that we're living here on Abenaki land and water, and send greetings and thanks to all Abenaki and Algonquian peoples in the Northeast. Abenaki homeland is the largest indigenous homeland in the Northeast, spanning from northwestern Massachusetts through Vermont and New Hampshire into northeastern New York, southern Quebec, and southwestern Maine. Abenaki and Algonquian peoples include the Sokoki, Missisquoi, Odanak Abenakis, the Elmu, the Kawasuk, the Mohegan, the Pennacook, the Sohegans, the Pigwackets, the Pocumtuck, and the Nonotuck, and many more peoples. I would also like to acknowledge our indigenous neighbors, the Mohegans and Mohawks to the west and north, the Wabanaki Confederacy to the east, the Nipmuc, Wampanoag, Narragansett, and Mohegan people to the south. These lands have sustained generations of settler families, as well as yours, yet too often this fact is not recognized. I would like to greet and thank all indigenous people who live here in the Northeast, even if this is not your homeland. I would also like to send greetings and thanks to non-human relatives who are here with us right now. Fish, here we go. Eels, otters, beavers, coyotes, foxes, turkeys, opossum, groundhogs. Also water plants, trees, food plants, and medicine plants. The mountain, the stones, who many people regard as memory keepers. Winds and thunder, who carry seeds, give us oxygen, and fertilize ground. And to the waters themselves, who we cannot live without. Thank you for supporting us, rivers. Lastly, I'd like to greet and thank all the beings who live in the supernatural realms above and below us, who are symbolized in the petroglyphs that brought us here today. So my name is Jessica Dolan, and I didn't realize Joe was going to introduce me. He already introduced me. I'm here today because I grew up here in Brattleboro, and I came to Native American and Indigenous Studies because Growing up here, there are a lot of people who claim Native American heritage and sharing rural legends about the Abenaki past. Even my own family has this distant Native American heritage story. So that's what brought me to Native American and indigenous studies. But learning the truth about it all always felt like it was out of reach while I was growing up here. Indigenous truths in Vermont were definitely not self-evident or readily available. And there's a reason. For centuries, dominant stories about settlement here erased actual indigenous presence. Even while settlers were living right next door to Native people, they were writing about them as if they had disappeared, left, or died out. These stories served to help build America and reinforce American dominance. The truth is, of course, that indigenous, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, hey? Indigenous people are still here and have always been, practicing their cultural traditions, speaking or studying their languages, passing on their stories, knowledge, and values through their families and communities. Back in 2005, I began to hear about this indigenous resurgence that is happening now. It's happening across North America, and that inspired me to do my PhD. And for most of the time since then, I've worked with the Iroquois. I haven't been learning about Abenaki history. I also worked with the James Bay Crees up in 2007 and 8. I only began to start to learn about Abenaki history since I moved back here 2 years ago. So my motivation for joining this Brattleboro Words Project is to research and record podcasts that present clear and true Indigenous histories, so they'll be available for the community and schools. And I want to uplift Indigenous perspectives and voices. So, here we are at the confluence. Why is it special? What is it about this place, eh? This exact place has been home and also a place of travel for Abenaki people and other Native people for tens of thousands of years, not just since the 1700s. Before there were roads and horses, the rivers were the superhighways of Indigenous North America. People have been traversing the Connecticut, or Connecticut, which I can't pronounce very well, but Rich will tell you, and here the West River, or Wantastegok, since forever. This confluence is a river highway. People would take this all the way up to central Vermont and go over through the mountains to meet up with the headwaters of the Hudson and Lake George and Lake Champlain, to meet other people and trade, or to hunt. Before European settlers came, historians, oral history says that Abenakis lived right here, all around this area, even in this place that we call the Meadows and uphill from them. And they managed the lands here, planting corn, beans, and squash, ground cherries, tobacco, sunflowers. They fished for salmon, shad. They hunted for deer, moose, beaver, bear, turkeys, and ducks. They also managed with fire and harvested from the abundant forests nuts like butternut, chestnut, hickories, and walnuts, and berries like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, shadberries. Abenaki villages were organized by families, and people traveled seasonally throughout centuries according to hunting, fishing, and agricultural calendars, as well as later on, after many Europeans settled here for work and trade, such as in the logging industries, selling baskets and other artisan goods, and working as tailors and guides. These are historic realities, but they're also contemporary practices, because while many things have changed, also many things have remained the same. And it's easy to have that animated in your imagination when you drive around southern Vermont and you see houses that were built in 1725, 1740-something, or 1760-something. So once we can wrap our heads around this as a populated and settled landscape since forever, we can then begin to understand how and why settlers chose already managed places to settle. Some of our roads were already paths, and the Retreat Meadows became an important and critical place in the development of Brattleboro. So given what I've said here about European settlement on top of indigenous settlements, about New England erasure and settler stories, about ongoing presence of Native people here, about settlers claiming indigenous heritage, and about the physical submersion of the petroglyphs, you can see how these processes of colonization over the last 400 years have literally hidden or submerged Native peoples and cultures in the Northeast. And the submersion of petroglyphs here in the Retreat Meadows is a great example of this American approach of colonizing the land. Erasing human relationships and sacred places for the sake of extracting resources and energy. And it also mirrors how Europeans literally flooded these lands in population once the American Revolution was over. And that changed human cultural relationships with land by bringing their land management techniques. So this all sets the stage for me to talk about the petroglyphs here. In the process of researching and writing for this project, I've interviewed 2 people so far, and I'm going to share with you what they shared with me about the petroglyphs. The first person is Michael Galvin, who's not Abenaki. He's actually from the Washoe tribe, and he's a curator at the Seneca Institute of Art and Culture in Western New York. But he's been studying forms of indigenous text, like petroglyphs, dendroglyphs, which are culturally modified trees, tattoos, textile symbology, pottery. And what he had told me is that glyphs were done as a common form of text for people to understand across tribes, even if people didn't speak the same language. They were left behind in significant places for other travelers to see. The faces of the glyphs match other ones all across North America. They are emblematic of horned serpents, beings, and underwater panthers, Michael says. They are beings that live underwater, and that's their realm, below the water's edge. Indigenous mariners and paddlemen who traveled on the water, and fishermen, were conscious of their spiritual well-being while on the water, as we should be. The glyphs were created to communicate messages about serpents, human faces with horns, and etc., all manner of underground beings that can affect people's safety while they're traveling. And the bird beings that Annette mentioned are connected to thunder beings, as birds who assist thunder beings such as eagles, nighthawks, and swallows. They are the opposite of the underwater beings, but yet they're still supernatural. The thunder beings actually want to eat the horned serpents underwater as food. The presence of both here in the meadow signifies that, like seeing an eagle with a snake in its mouth. People in the past observed both sky beings and underworld beings here at the meadows. People who come to these places are to pay a spiritual toll to ensure safe passage on the waterways by leaving an offering to maintain balance between the sky realm and the underworld and underwater realm. Michael Galvin said that an appropriate way to interact with them is to leave an offering of tobacco or copper or flint, which reflect the scales of the serpents. These entities are not evil. They're supernatural beings of great power, and they're just from a different realm, so we are to work with them correctly. Michael said the best way to understand what the petroglyphs mean is is to listen to Abenaki traditional cultural stories about this place. So then the next person who I interviewed was Liz Charlevoix, who is an Abenaki nurse and educator and seakeeper. And what she told me revealed to me something significant for understanding Abenaki relationships and perspectives with the glyphs. First, I learned from her that this time of year is not actually the time of year that Abenakis tell creation stories. So, and you can tell from Michael's interpretation that they have to do with creation stories. So, Abenakis actually, Liz told me, tell stories in the wintertime. So I wasn't actually able to learn in depth what these glyphs mean to her yet. But she did say that her whole life, she grew up learning that when the end times come, the petroglyphs hold instructions for people about how to live, where to keep our families safe, and When these interns come, we are to go to the petroglyphs and they'll give us instructions about what to do. She believes the petroglyphs here at Willows Falls and at Willows Falls are extremely old and potentially made during creation or tens of thousands of years ago, or potentially recreated over time to mirror and remind people about prophecies. So Liz and Michael's interviews and my interpretation of them here are examples of how I'm researching and writing podcasts for the Brattleboro Words and Places project. I'm doing a bunch of different podcasts, and I wrote this, because I'm a scholar and I write a lot, I wrote this whole thing out, but I'm going to cut it short. What I wanted to say is that there's a lot of different ways to learn about Indigenous history here. I grew up thinking that we might not know the truth, and that there was like a poverty of ways to know the truth, but actually there's so many ways to learn Indigenous history.
And the number one way to learn is to listen to Indigenous people here, to go to cultural events.
Cultural events like reenactments at the forts, like powwows, like heritage days. You can learn a lot by listening, especially because Indigenous cultures are oral cultures. And then there's also a lot of different wonderful books by Indigenous scholars, and there's even historical texts that you can find in places like Books and Words and the historical societies. So there's tons, and then you can look to art, like Michael Galvin did and interpreted for me. So there's really actually tons and tons of ways to learn the truth about Indigenous history here. As a matter of perspective about all this, I wanted to say that we're almost now at the year 2020, which is the 400th anniversary of those European pilgrims arriving in Plymouth. And 400 years is
Just a wrinkle in time in the eyes of this landscape.
and in the eyes of the entities that these petroglyphs symbolize. Yet, it has taken American society 400 years to begin to face the truths about the violence
And displacement at the roots of our society.
Going back to my interview with Liz, the state of the world today actually might be such that we are at the end of times, or at the end of times as we know them, signifying that it is time to listen to and follow Indigenous prophecies. But yet here we are, a group of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people gathered by the petroglyphs. What do they have to teach us? What can we learn? I believe that it is worthwhile for us to take time to really understand our historical and cultural and spiritual relationships with this land and these waters and with each other. And when we do take that time, we're going to see that answers have been here at home all along,
Waiting for us to share them in a humble connection
with each other and the land and the water. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening.
Reg, where are you? He's up there somewhere. Reg, look at this. Isn't this great? This was Reggie Martell's idea to have all of you show up, and certainly appreciate the amount of you and interest that you've shown in this topic. Jess did a nice job of an overview concerning an Abenaki perspective. But one of the things that's probably also something you should know is that this idea that the Abenaki were not here was something that was planned. It was something that was worked by the powerful in Vermont. It goes back to Ethan Allen and his brother Ira, and wanting to take land and wanting to become part of the United States. Part of the deal of joining the United States was that Vermont had to show that there was no way that there were going to be any court cases that the United States government was going to have to deal with in relation to Indian claims on this land. And so the Allens and others in power purposefully pursued the idea that in the textbooks and in the stories and in the court systems there would be no acknowledgement of the Abenaki. And it's taken a long time, as Jess said, it's taken 400 years to bring the real stories out. The Abenaki are still here. The indigenous people are still here. They tell their stories, and we want to tell them too. So that's why we're here. Rich Holschuh serves on the Vermont Commission for Native American Affairs and is a public liaison for the Abenaki tribe. He also interfaces with other tribal groups, corporate entities, other local and state agencies, civic groups. He's basically the voice of the and many of the indigenous people in Vermont, and we're pleased to have him here. Rich?
Yeah, there's a lot of stories. I'm going to tell you a story. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Waiiwa, Uipaio Yogali, Quick, Wakino Muzian, Yudal Nam Yolan, Mina. Dela Wizilit, Tandai, Wantastegok, Salisopaki, Utsindakina. Hello, my friends. It's good to see you here, many of you for the first time. I welcome you to Wantastegok, the original name of this place, a name that it still carries. In Sokwaki, the land of Sokoki, the band of Abenaki who lived here, the families, and that's in the homeland of the Abenaki themselves, Ndakina, our homeland. I'm a beginning student of the Western Abenaki language, still in kindergarten, but learning as fast as I can. We are fortunate to have good teachers and good references. And I'm off to language camp again tomorrow. So push me up. As Joe said, I serve on the State Commission for Native American Affairs, representing Elnu. Elnu are the tribe in the southeastern Vermont area here in Vermont. What we call Vermont now, which has a conflicted history with its indigenous people, as Joe has alluded. Relatively recent have these stories come to the surface and have the Abenaki been recognized in their own homeland. The state of Vermont spent $1 million of taxpayer money trying to block that under Howard Dean. Go figure. But eventually the truth came out and the Abenaki is still here. Ndalo Divana Aswa Rodali, who is still here. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here. I'm going to go freeform. I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of stories, all very, very short. I've got like 50 of them. They're only going to be 2 or 3 sentences long. And the remarkable thing is that all of them happened right here, or within sight of this place. The Brattleboro Words Project is a National Endowment for the Humanities funded project which draws on Brattleboro's history of words, both literate or oral, to tell stories of placemaking. And that's what people do. They tell stories to each other and create community. The Abenaki did that as well. They continue to do that as well. And we are telling stories to each other right now. I am relating to you. Relating. We are relations. And so we are in community right now. We're all in this together, and we have to figure it out. And it's about time. So I'm going to use something called a story stick. It's got 50 little marks on it, and they're supposed to prompt stories to my recognition. I may or may not be successful, but there's enough. So I want to start with the petroglyphs. That's why we're here. What are petroglyphs? They are carvings in rock. They look like little pictures. You may have a hard time understanding what they're saying. That's okay. They're still doing what they're supposed to do. To you, of them. They are here in our presence. They've been here a very, very long time. They're still doing their job that they were put here for. What is that job? Petroglyphs are a witness, as I have been putting it lately, a witness to a convergence of time and space in a certain place. You will not generally find petroglyphs in any old random place. They are only in certain places. In what is now the state of Vermont, there are only 2 primary petroglyph sites. That speaks to how special those places are. What makes those places special? The people who put the petroglyphs in place recognize those factors, and they are witness to that. It is a place where worlds come together. There are certain things that have to be present for a petroglyph to be present, and they are here. I don't need to get into finer details of that, but in an Abenaki way of being in the world, this is a place where worlds converge. We have the sky world above us. We have the underworld. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Underworld can be underwater or under earth. And we have the world that we live on, the surface. They all come together here in a certain way. And with them comes the spirit that are in these places. Everything has spirit. Everything has agency. Everything is talking all the time. If you pay attention, you hear it. It may not be the words you know, but it's speaking. You have to go speak to us now. 15 feet underwater. They're still speaking. Stories. Stories have animacy. Stories have spirit. They have agency. Once a story is spoken out, it never goes away. Hello? I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of stories. I'm not going to put them on a timeline. Why? Because they're all still here. It doesn't matter. They're all still here. They helped to create this place and make it what it is. There's no such thing as time anyway. All we have is the present. All we have is the present. Right here, right now, is all that exists. If you're able to access that, I recommend it. It helps. The past is what has created where we are right now, and we are creating what will come. There's really no other way around that, right? Energy and matter are preserved. Everything's here. It's all here. Every person that has ever lived is still here. They're all around us. The old ones. We want to acknowledge that. We need more moment. No goodness, no God. No home, no God. No home, no man. We remember our grandmothers and our grandfathers and all the relations. They are here. It's you, the evening. Thank you. So stories. Petroglyphs are not carved by a random person sitting around with time on their hands. Nothing else to do. This is what the explorers who came through this area wrote down in their remarks. They saw what they called Indian rock. They speculated on what it might mean. Why was it there? They had nothing better to do. Actually say that. Not true. Petroglyphs are placed by spiritual leaders, medicine people, working for their people. They're in a conversation with the spirits of the place. It's a conversation. It's not between good and bad. It's not between black and white. They recognize what's going on here and that you need to pay attention. That is called staying in a relationship. It's our primary responsibility. Look for balance, stay in a relationship. In this place in particular, somebody just go up there. Cool. I came in here this afternoon and the eagle was leaving, and I was coming in. I take that as a good sign. I was told there was an eagle here afterward. Keep your eyes open. Not just me. There's a lot going on around here. So medicine people, they recognize what was going on here. They acknowledge it. They were in that dialogue. That dialogue continues because those stories continue. Why? There's a lot of reasons why this place is special. If you're going down into That's how you say that. Winnetou usually translates as the long river. Is a river. So that's Winnetou. From that, we get the place named Wantastegok, Connecticut River. That's an Abenaki word. We still use it. I think that's awesome. You all know an Abenaki word, by the way. How you say yes? Uh-huh. 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 That's how you say yes. Uh-huh. There you go. It's still here. Everything is still here. So, in the mouth of this river, which was much narrower before the Vernon Dam was built, the water came up 15 feet, as Annette said, and the banks got pushed back. There was a very narrow mouth to the river there. And if you're going down the Connecticut and you weren't paying attention, you might miss it. The West River came in right here between rocks. And it came in there. Stop. If you turned in here, you came to this beautiful bowl. It's beautiful, isn't it? Full of everything. Everything you possibly will need. And you were thankful for that. You were grateful. There was a lot of fish here. When the first settlers came in here, they said that there were so many salmon coming in the mouth of that river, they said you could walk across. There are no salmon anymore. Because of that dam that raised water for 15 feet was the first hydroelectric dam on this river. There are hundreds of dams on the Connecticut River watershed. Right, Kathy? Thousands. Thank you. I think it's the most heavily exploited watershed in the country, if not the world. Yeah, that's the facts. So there's a series of impoundments. It's not very healthy as far as flowing, but we still have it here, and that's a good thing. I mentioned the underworld earlier. Of course, there's always water and land underneath your feet, but in some places there are entrances to the underworld. This is where the worlds converge. There is such a place here. When Annette was doing her research for the diving exploration, trying to pinpoint where she should best look, she came across a handwritten recording of an interview with a Brattleboro native. And he was talking about his experiences growing up here as a boy. He'd come down there with his buddies to hang out by the river, as kids like to do. And they'd go swimming and fishing. And he said, and this is the only place in living history in Brattleboro that this occurs. And it was one of these light bulb moments. He said at the bottom of the channel, right in front of where the petroglyphs are, there was a whirlpool. That's an entry to the underworld. And things would disappear. And one of his friends almost managed to get himself out. They said if you put a little stick down there in the whirlpool, and that's the copy right here. Yeah. She's got a photocopy of the diary of the interview. You put a stick down in that whirlpool, it was come out of one of three places further down the river. The people who knew that, the people who were here long before that knew that. This was the place where you could get access to the underworld. There were spirits down there, there were powerful spirits. You need to acknowledge that. You didn't ignore that. And you worked with other spirits to make sure that things were staying with itself. That's what's going on here. So, when you have a special place like this, a place of great power, it's a place where you want to be. You want to acknowledge that, you want to respect it. Many people would come here and be buried. We're surrounded by burials. We walk on the graves of thousands. We walk on the graves of thousands. They're not marked, but they're here. They're still here. You may not be able to see their bodies and their spirits are here. When When they built the second bridge across the West River, over there, where a person is standing on a concrete abutment, that's where the first Putney Road Bridge was, the covered bridge. When we built the first one, first edition of that, there were others. In 17, I don't even make it into the time. When we built that, they uncovered it area. Louder? Okay. There was a burial right there on the south side of the bridge. When the first farmer in this area, Holland Pettis, his farmhouse right over there to the south, was plowing in his field in what they call a cove. This area is a cove. He plowed up the skull. And there goes Pasco, the heron. Pasco Bay, the heron. Heron Bay. Holland Pettis plowed up the skull with a pipe and a pestle for grinding corn and some points over there. So people were digging on this bank over here in the mid-1800s and found another one. The first two people to move out of Fort Dummer, first family I should say, built a house over at the Retreat Farm in Beverly City. And it didn't last too long. A knock came on their door. They were trespassing. And they died that night on the spot. Louder? Sorry. In front of me. Forgive me. All around us, those people are still here. On the other side of the river, a long time ago, some people were traveling north, refugees from the war. And we had native people and we had non-native people in that party. First bestseller in New England tells about that travel. That's Brattleboro. And we had a clash of cultures going on at the time there. The female leader left the camp to go out and help to bury one of her relatives' children who had died on the march. And when she came back, she found an English woman reading her Bible. Didn't go long to help. She wasn't very happy. She took that Bible and she launched into the woods as far as she could. Think about that. What's going on in that picture? Are you present? Are you here? Are you somewhere else?
I'm here.
Where's your head? I had a friend come visit not too long ago, an Anishinaabe medicine person, and he came to visit, and we met at the common, and he was standing above the retreat. He had the terrace. And he gestured and said, "What is this place?" I said, "That's the Brattleboro Retreat, former Vermont asylum for the insane." And he just nodded his head. Because he recognized the power of this place. Brattleboro Retreat was involved in the eugenics program. Notice that story there. If you're not familiar with the eugenics program, Vermont participated in such a program. Better breeding for human beings, people on the blacklist, with non-desirables, the deplorables. Retreat is complicit in that. It's been a place of power, and they do that at the time. Sorry if that's harsh. Just true. The first people to come and settle here came to the best place first, the retreat. Retreat over there, I already told you about that. To the north, to the south. There's a grave in the Locust Ridge Cemetery just up here of a man, and it says on his grave he was the first person born in the state of Vermont. True story. It's written in stone right up there. You can go see it. But that's the way the story's been told. But there's a lot of stories that haven't been told. So we're talking about the Abenaki people here. I don't want to make this all about entertainment. This is a fraught subject. It's highly political. It's always about the land. That's what settler colonialism is about. It's about the land. People are still here. They've been dispossessed. Telling it like it is. A little movement toward betterment of that situation is underway right now. We're working with the Vermont Land Trust. I think John Weir from the Land Trust is here tonight. We have been working to acquire a little piece of land over here adjacent to petroglyphs on the river. It's on the market, and we wanted to maintain access for Native people to this place and for the public. We're all in some kind of relationship. We want to better that. So the Land Trust has purchased that little piece of land over there now. And we're in the midst of trying to figure out how to make that pay off. And so that Connecticut's going to hold that, but little bit by little bit, start to put needed space back onto the map here in Wantastegok and elsewhere. I was with that friend who was visiting not long ago. We came down here by the river, petroglyphs, to talk to the old one about because it is a person who, while we were standing over there on the shore, talking and singing and watching what was going to happen. From the other side of the shore, this side, a little tiny movement caught our eye and came across the water toward us. We're all staring at it, wondering, what the heck is that? Got close enough we could see it. It was a squirrel. Swimming across the river to us. It came all the way across and came out on the bank nearby. What it brought to mind for me is the name of the squirrel, Abenaki, which is Mikoa. Mikoa means the one who remembers. Think about that. People have been here for a really long time. Puppy Road is being widened now. There's a project coming up with V-Trans. And when you do a project in the earth, you need to pay attention to what's there before you start digging. And I think they're paying a lot of attention because there are ancient sites that are nearby here. There's one on the hill over there. There's another one on the hill over there. We're talking towns. Then they moved the Center Congregational Church. I'm sorry. Thousands of years? There was an encampment on the hill over there on the other side of Putney Road that dates back thousands of years. There's another one behind me over the country club. These are just what's on the record. Most of it's not. It's needle and haystack stuff here. Let me look at my stick. There are a lot of stories here. And I'll wrap up soon. We can talk about this later. We're going to adjourn from this position here on the water and go over to the medical tent and out in time, talk, ask questions, whatever you want. A lot of stuff to talk about. I was talking to a neighbor the other day over on that side of the river who had been out for a walk in the area, and I was explaining to them how there were burials in the area and that with burials they often found other things. And he said, I've got something I want to see. And they ran in another room and came out with a pestle, a stone pestle, about 16 inches long, a grinding corn that he had picked up while he was walking his dog right over there. The spoke to another neighbor just up the river here. They were building a garage. And they found us. Why would it be over there? The first bridge across the West River was up here, like Road. That was the first bridge. Why was the bridge there? Because that's where the trail was. Right. You would have forded the river 2 feet in a boat until the first bridge was built. That's where the bridge was, that's where the trail was, that's where the people were. All kind of good things. This place shows up in a couple different ways. There's one particular family, the Williams family. They were part of the Deerfield raid. That group of French and Allied native forces came right down here through Wantastegok. They left their extra equipment here. Their stores, their sleds, their dogs. They stashed them here in Wantastegok. Then they went on foot down to Deerfield. Did what they had come to do. 300 strong on a weekday, middle of the winter. And they came back with 109 prisoners in Wantastegok, picked up their stores, their sleds, and their dogs, and headed up the river, frozen at the time. That all happened here. Lots of it. I'm going to leave it at that, because I missed a whole bunch, but we've heard enough. I just want you to know that those stories are still here, those spirits are still here. We're fortunate to be in this place. This is a good place. I'm happy to say so. The 4 directions. We are, well, here you go. 4 directions. There are 4 directions. I look at it as 7. You can look at it that way as well. You want me to point them out, Scott? Okay. Wombanaki. Sounds like Abenaki, right? Farmland. Wombanaki. The east, where the sun comes up. Sowanaki, the southland. Abenaki, the summerland. Where health and vitality come from. We're looking at it now when the sun goes down. So Abenaki, the winterland, definitely the northland. That way. Where is it? Stories of hell that go on here. Peak, Sky World, up there, government, Aki, below us, the land, buildings up. The last direction is this one right here, Yodali, here, before me, present. The last 7th direction is all we have. I heard somebody speak once and he said that he was in the middle of nowhere, according to what most people would have thought. And he realized that actually he was in the center of everything. And I can tell you what the 7th direction is all about. Space moves with you. And relationship moves with you wherever you go. You're in the center. But it's not about you. It's about everything around you. I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for coming. Believe me, thank you.
I want to also tell you, so just very quickly, 2 minutes, I did scuba diving for 30 years in the river, and I'm on the underwater rescue team. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you couldn't see 2 inches in front of me. It was so polluted. But with the strong work of the Connecticut River Conservancy, along with many other West River Conservancies, all the people coming together to protect this beautiful river, in this river that we're on right now. I have visibility of up to 20 to 30 feet in the river now, and I'm so happy to have awesome, wonderful, it's so beautiful. I'm 87% Swedish, but I sort of feel like my friends and the chief, I'm starting to feel very close to your culture. I'm spending so much time here and learning so much about your culture. So I have to turn this over to Joe, and I'm going to be up at that tent with Rich and the others. They're going to have a lot going on up there where we'll have a 58-inch screen with all kinds of underwater video that I have, and what it looks like under here, what it really looks like under here now, where you can see. And thank you so much. Here's Joe.
Again, this was the first time for us, and we appreciated the attentive audience, despite some of our technological difficulties. We were all here in spirit, and we all formed a community. Thank you.